To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. So yesterday I showed you our new chickens, our meat birds. So this is the first night. They all survived the first day. Barely though. I made a major mistake last night. I get up a couple times a night and I fill these water bottles, these bottles here, with hot water. Because we have solar, we don't have a heat lamp. So I use these water bottles as heat, and they all color around it, and it works out really well. Probably not as good as a heat lamp, but summertime, it's 80 degrees in the house anyways. Well, last night I got up to refill them with hot water. I got one bottle in there just fine. The other bottle, I guess I didn't get the cap on very well. A few minutes later, here Carolyn get up. I've got earplugs in, I sleep with earplugs, and she's filling the water bottle. And what are you doing? She says, well, the water bottle's empty. I guess she thought I just dumped it out and put it back in. I said, no, I just filled them up. And I jumped up. All the water had dumped out into their confinement here. And so now they're all wet. Well, they get wet, they get cold. So I immediately cleaned it all out as fast as I could. I got them out of there. I put them into this one here. Tried to dry them off. Carolyn was helping me dry them off. Got her new bedding put in. Got new water bottles put in. And within 15 minutes of turning the light off, they all went back to sleep. So they survived. So yesterday we also got the new tent for the meat chickens. I got the chicken wire on it because when they come out here, they're going to be really small, because I'm also going to put a different fence on it. Since these guys are going to be kind of outside all the time, they're not going to be in the coop. I'm going to make a makeshift coop for them, and the coop's going to go inside the tent. So I want to make sure the tent is a little bit more secure than just the chicken wire. So I got this 14 gauge fencing also. I know a lot of people are going to say you should have bought the 12 gauge, but I didn't see the point in spending an extra $100 on 12 gauge when I can use this 14 gauge. And this will keep the wild animals out, keep the dogs out. So I'll wrap this around the chicken wire, but you can see the spacing on this. The chickens can get out of that at their size. And so in a couple weeks, we'll have them back out. I'm gonna make the coop out of this coroplast. Of course, wild animals could get into that pretty easy. So the fencing material will keep them out. And then when the meat birds are done, using that cage, I can open it up, and then the egg chickens can have more space to run around in. So that's 300 square feet now that we've got in running space. This morning, I let the chickens have their freedom. You know, this Independence weekend, let them run around while I was putting that tent up. And boy, I mean, you'd have thought I'd have just given them the world. I mean, they came out here. Finally, they went up to the road, which we kind of expected they would. So Carolyn pushed them back down. They went right back in the house. We've trained them that if we say, get in your house, they'll go back into the house. So we did that when they were up on the road, get in your house, and they all kind of just moseyed back down here. So I got some exciting news today. When I let them out, I came in here to clean up a little bit, and I noticed something just absolutely thrilling. So these guys were, what, 2 or 3 weeks old when we got them. The Buff Orpingtons and Frenchie. So we were expecting to start getting eggs sometime in August, September time frame. But this morning I came over here and I didn't move it. I left it for everybody to see. And we got a little egg right here. I mean, it's tiny. So they'll get bigger, of course. It's kind of a tannish color, which is expected. But this is expected for their very first egg, real small. Already starting to get eggs about a month early. So maybe these chickens that we got from Orscheln's were actually a little bit older than what I expected them to be, or what I thought they would have been when we got them. So I wanted to wish everybody a good Independence Day. I gotta be careful what I say on YouTube. Last year, I tried to say the 4th of the 7th month. I had to say it that way. 4th day of the 7th month, because every time I put a video up where I said it the irregular way, they struck the video. I don't know if they still had the same rules, or if the algorithm was just being stubborn. But anyway, I do want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day. I want to talk about independence. I hear so many people talk about the freedoms that we're losing in our country. I hear it all the time. It's in every video I watch. It seems like no matter what kind of video you watch, no matter what kind of TV show you watch, somebody's talking about government and politics and how we're losing our freedoms, and these guys need to change and we need to stop it, and da-da-da. It just constant. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not the politicians that are doing it. Politicians are doing what they do. They want to be in office, so they do what they're supposed to do to stay in office. And what is that? Well, they do what you want them to do. They would do what I want them to do. Oh, sometimes they try to push the limits, but nobody really pays attention to what they're doing, and it's just, and it's two-sided. Both sides say that we're losing our freedoms. I mean, it's funny. One person will call me a liberal and another person will call me a right-wing extremist. Your freedoms are being taken away, not by government or anything. I mean, taken away by your neighbor. Your neighbor does everything they can to stop you from having freedom. When I was in the military, they pretty much tell you that you don't have any rights in the military. When you go into boot camp, I was in the Navy. But the one thing you'll notice is when you're on watch, you're at the front of the barracks, and you can look down, every bunk is made the same exact way, the same sheets, the same pillows, the same foot lockers. Everything is exactly identical. Well, I remember I was in Iowa one time and I got turned around in Des Moines and I went down a cul-de-sac. My guess was it was an HOA. I'm sure it was an HOA. Everything looked like the barracks in boot camp. Every house was identical. The driveways were identical. The front yards were identical. The mailboxes were identical. And it must have been trash day that day because every trash can was identical and put in the same exact spot in each yard. I wonder if they actually have to go out there with a tape measure or if they got a piece of concrete there. But you have to have it all squared away. You have the freedom to either move there or not move there. But the problem is people want to impose those kind of HOA rules on everybody. And I'll give you an example. I lived down in a little incorporated town, population 100 people, about 200 miles north of where I'm at now. It was a quaint little town, very neighborly. Everybody liked everybody except one person. It was a couple. I would say they were in their 60s when I lived there. Well, I actually bought my house from them. They moved into a trailer next door. They had 3 or 4 lots that they owned there. So they rented out trailers. Well, they moved into one of the trailers, sold us the house. Well, when I got there, they were pretty nice. And we wanted to build a dog pen. It was a building. I mean, it was a regular building. It wasn't like it was anything cruddy looking. Matched the house, same color, you know, shingles, the whole deal. Well, when he came over to see what I was doing, I said, well, we're gonna build a little dog pen so when we go out, we don't have to leave them in the house. They can come out here. And that way, if they tear anything up, it's in the dog kennel, not in the house. Well, he immediately threw a fit, threatened to hurt me, to injure me. I immediately kicked him off the property, said I was gonna call the police if he didn't leave. They called the town council. Well, of course, it was unincorporated, so, I mean, they had this kind of council thing, but it wasn't elected officials. It was just people that would get together to, you know, try to raise money to fix the streets. So for the next 10 years that I lived there, they were always in my business. Come here. Now, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, I suppose. Our neighbor here comes down on holidays and sometimes on weekends, and they have a pretty good time. They ride their ATVs and make a lot of noise and shooting their firearms. And during the day, I have no problems with that at all. Well, at nighttime, they continue on. Well, last time they were here, they started shooting off around midnight. And Carolyn and I just ignored it. We let them go. Well, they were here the second night, and at 10 o'clock, they started up shooting again. And I yelled out the window just as loud as I could, I think that's enough for tonight. And of course, he said, okay. So here I did something that I kind of object to, which is I violated his freedoms. But on the other hand, when you think about it, he violated my freedoms from being able to sleep. And so what it is we lose respect for each other. We don't care what the neighbor thinks. So what's the next step? Do I call a council meeting and say, look, we got to stop this shooting after 10 o'clock. No loud noises after 10 o'clock because it disturbs my sleep. Well, no, I don't think we should. See, this is how government gets involved. No, I think I resolved it just fine. I told the neighbor I think that's enough for tonight. He agreed. We worked it out. Of course, there are going to be times you can't work it out, But I don't think that means that we got to have laws in place and we need mediators and lawyers, and there's got to be diplomatic ways to deal with things without having all this interference. Even the neighbor that I had who hated me, could I resolve the issue? Is there something that I could have done? I watch this channel and he talks about de-escalating events. And there's courses, you know, actual courses you can take about de-escalation. Self-defense courses is what it is. How to de-escalate a situation. But there's also a book that you can read. It was written by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. There is a way to de-escalate things. Now, I recognize I hollered across the yard and said, hey, I think that's enough for tonight. It was firm, but it wasn't mean. He knew he was doing something rude. He knew it. But if I'd have went over there and started cussing at him, telling him how big of a jerk he is, and I'm going to kick his, you know what, and I'm escalating. I was actually surprised. I figured he would come back at me. Well, it's a weekend, just deal with it. Which case, you still got to de-escalate. I understand it's a weekend, but man, I got to work tomorrow, and I really would appreciate it if you could tone it down. I understand you want to have fun. You don't only get to come out here every now and then. But, you know, some of us still live out here all the time. I get it. Let's work on respecting one another again. So I hope on this Independence Day, I can inspire you to make friends when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.